Please take a seat. Please. We are going to start with the last session of the day. And I promise in 1 hour we are done. And then I'm going to explain you the dynamic of this evening, the tapas tour. All right. So time to round tables. We have prepared two. The first one is dedicated to innovation. We saw a lot of ideas, innovations, new dynamics, but the question remains the same. What still we need? The moderator of this session is Álvaro Picardo. Please, Álvaro. And the speakers are Sandra Krommes from the University of Rosenheim, ONEforest coordinator, Ivana Zivojnovic from BOKU, the University of Natural Resources and Life Science, Vienna, and Toni Ventre, our secretary of the Mediterranean Model Forest Network. Álvaro, please, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Welcome into our round table. And we have the question, what we still need. And I think that forestry is clearly changing, and we are going towards more multifunctionality, more multi-production. I'm convinced that we are going into more participatory approaches. Probably a key condition factor that is going to be the lack of employment. No people in rural areas to work in forestry. And we are going for more intersectoral approaches with energy, with tourism, with agriculture. We'll see. So the question is, perhaps there are more elements that we should consider on where we are moving towards, but it's clear that we are going to need some elements. And we have these three excellent speakers to tell us their impressions on that. And I would like to begin with Sandra, and that you can perhaps mention the elements that you consider from the results of your project and also from your experience in wood technology and wood products.
Thank you, Álvaro. Do we need a microphone?
I think so.
Thank you. Thank you, Álvaro, for inviting me to this roundtable. Yes, of course, in the morning we presented some results from ONEforest, and as you probably may know, I'm more in the field of wood technology, and we are dealing with the wood processing. And what we have figured out so far from our modeling and from the simulation is that we will have an increasing demand of wood, and this is almost due to the bioeconomy which comes up. We have already heard about bioeconomy, that we will get new products. The interest is that fossil-based materials, resources will be substituted by bio-based materials, and this will lead to an increase of wood demand in the different wood processing industries and almost new industries. You have already mentioned it also in your presentation, that you are looking for solution for small, medium-sized enterprises, what they can do with the wood. And that is what we are figuring. And therefore, we know that we have a kind of a competition for wood supply. And we have this already in some processing industries. So during the modeling and simulation of the downstream sector in ONEforest, we had a lot of conversations and with the industry, the traditional industry, I would name them, and they are already complaining about lacks, insufficient wood supply, and of course they are looking for new resources as secondary materials and so on. And from my side, there are two perspectives which we have considered. One perspective is that we have to look at how we can make more about or out of wood, that we have to think about the design of wood products, how we can use wood more efficient, how we can make the design more intelligent. That's one topic. And the other topic is that we really have to think about the strategic resource planning of wood supply. So we have some models in place which can project the harvesting volumes of timber, but nevertheless the industry needs some sufficient supply, even if they would like to do some planning. And what we also have to do is that we include in that planning secondary materials which are made from wood. So what we see in other projects, that we have huge amount of secondary wood which is on the markets. Of course, a lot of this wood is contaminated, and you have to be careful how you use these kind of contaminated products and secondary sources. But the other thing is, how can we close the material loops? And there we have to find new technologies, or we have to increase the grade or the level of technologization in wood recycling. This is one which is, I'm a little bit concerned about, that we do not really close the loop in the material recycling.
Yes. So it's clear that circularity is another element, and what we are seeing is that the last big investment projects are, there are big investment projects in plants that are processing used wood. So that will complement harvesting of natural forest. But probably that's the key interest for the industry. But for society, there are other demands that we need to look at. And as we have seen this morning, we will have more challenges of additional and different functions. And I was surprised always this alternative for abandoning harvesting. And there is probably a part of the European society that it's willing on that. We probably will need also to work on more social innovation to convince people of how to integrate the different functions. And I think that this is probably part of the task that you have, how to balance the different demands. You are already, Alex has explained us how bringing together different voices. The question is, how will you solve the problem if someone asks you more harvest and the others are telling you no harvest at all? We do not want the boreal forest being harvested down. What do you think that is missing?
Well, I'm here first, of course, in front of Boku University. We do research on innovations for a long time, like almost more than 20 years. So it's really established group working on this. And also on part of the EUFORE project. And I know first, and I would like to say from the EUFORE project side, that we know what we need now. We need your input for our work. And I would really stress once more, like Alex said, we are working on this document on the strategic research and innovation agenda. So we really need your input in different topics. So what is missing in our research and innovation? So I would really welcome you to visit our website, to subscribe or express your interest as the stakeholders and join us in our task working groups. And I can already say that on the 16th of May, there is a task working group meeting online, and whoever is interested, I can send you the link to this meeting to be there, and we will discuss first draft version of this document. So it's really, if you have time for 2 hours on 16th of May, that would be really perfect to see this first version and really get your input, and, you know, probably we missed something out of it. But what I would say in addition, like, I mean, for a long, forestry was considered as very traditional, not so prone to innovations, but we could see also from the research which we did now in EUFORE that this is changing. It's really one of the topics in the forestry, so innovations in different types. And what I would stress, except of these process innovations, which are very famous and I mean most common in forestry sector, I think that we should focus also more on the institutional innovations. So how to, I mean, we saw also today many partnerships that are really creating added value for forestry sector, but they are very localized in specific part of Europe. We have really some regions and some countries which are not so much involved. So I would see the need for more partnerships across Europe, or also like not just European Union countries, but accession countries and other, really to integrate all the knowledge and needs together. And also innovations in terms of policies. So these policy partnerships, because we know we are not so strong sector as the agricultural sector, so we don't have kind of legally binding documents for a strategy is very, you know, like non-binding. We can or we can or we don't need to implement this, and that's really different from country to country. So we need really on this side of policy level, different local and national, different kind of phase and partnerships of like wood pop is one of the initiatives recently that is really supposed to be really supportive and bring something new. And of course, social innovations or innovations in different kinds of services, experiences that are not so kind of dominant products from the forestry, but still important for small owners to diversify their kind of income streams. So there are many needs from society for different kind of leisures, or I don't know, just different kind of recreational offers and things that kind of small forest owners can, for example, offer. And I think that's also potential for some of those who are smaller and weaker and cannot really be producing timber or other products. So yeah, I would say that. And also what is needed is new financial streams. So not just European Union funding, but different kinds of partnership, maybe with private companies, with industries, really somehow to pool money from different sources so we can get more money for innovations.
Thank you, Ivana. So 3 new elements: institutional, more policy, and cross-sectoral, of course, and new investment streams. That's a good point. But what I want to highlight the results that you're calling for contributions, and you receive a lot from professors, you receive enough from forest authorities, but how can you involve civil society and enterprises? Because in the end, what we are saying is that the main problems are going to be in the industry. We need their direct voice in this, and civil society. And there are many voices dealing with that, but what I think that is missing is a round table where all those voices can get together. It's not only a question of shouting, we do not want more harvesting. It's how to bring these people. What do you think? Have you been working in how to solve these differences of voices in your project? Because that's a challenge.
I mean, as Alex pointed out, we are still really trying our best to integrate them through different kind of more larger organizations like IUCN and some others on the European level. But it's very hard to get really this civil society and public also involved, because it's, somehow everybody's interested, but when is the point to kind of really contribute, then they are not there. But yeah, we try really through different kind of networks to approach this. So yeah. But there is need for some kind of even more common platform for this.
Thank you very much.
Unfortunately, not real solution, but
well, at least we have identified the problem, and probably somehow we will find the ways to bring all these other voices into the dialogue. And one effort, and Toni Ventre has presented us an example of trying to get all these voices together at the local level. And probably you can tell us some more about this, what you perceive that is missing.
It's the question, no? Because when with Álvaro talked about this round table, and so have to talk about landscape and participatory process, in what way we are able to involve, to engage the stakeholders, to engage the civil society. And really, I was afraid to lose myself in my concept, because, and so I would like to start from the rural area. I live in a rural area. I work for 25 years in a rural area. And I think that regarding the governance, we have a big problem, because, and you will forgive me, but I write some notes about this, and I follow this note, and I think that we need to start from a question: who doesn't like or refuse these two concepts so linked, landscape and participatory process? So refuse, nobody, no. Indeed, even if when with the modern forest approach started in 1992, as I said this morning, the landscape approach and the participatory process was visionary. But now, in every kind of planification, programming tool, and every kind of process in the territory, like public administration, but not only, also like a research institute and so on, we have to start with a different methodology regarding the engagement of the stakeholders. But in this case, after 30 years, the engagement of in the rural areas has become more and more difficult, simply because now we have few people than 30 years ago, because the urbanization has continued along over these 30 years. And so when we are so able to involve the stakeholders, enterprise, association in the territory, and we are able to do well this kind of engagement, sometimes at the end of the process, at the end of the project, okay, we have the feedback from the stakeholders, we have the indication, we have data, but sometimes I have some difficulty, because all this information, maybe that the risk is that I am not able, or we are not able to use it, to use them, this information, this indication. And this happens mainly because the stakeholders, as we know, as we name, simply are few. And the number is the political weakness in the rural area. So for this reason, in the modern forest process, but not only, there are a lot of this kind of tools around the European Union and also in the Mediterranean basin. I think that we have to work to create a new shape of governance, a new shape of governance, mixed private and public, in those areas where we have we call them for the wildfire the interface area. Okay, not interface area just by a point of view of environmental, but also social and economic interface areas. We have to create a body, a shape of body who works like an intermediate in these points to balance the powerful of the society needs. But the society needs mostly come from cities, not from rural areas, And so is a problem, because what you say before, Álvaro, regarding in what way the landscape transforming, because a lot of people who are the authors of this landscape now live in Florence, in Barcelona, and in Berlin, and so on. But somebody lives there And now we have to stop what looks like unstoppable phenomenon in the world, urbanization. And to stop this kind of phenomenon, I think that we have to create a new shape of governance. And maybe that is a political challenge so hard because we know that we say that trees don't vote, but it's a really need to change the balance and to have a real involvement of the rural communities. In this case, also regarding the innovation, I think that it's easy to say. I think never in our history we have had so huge treasure of knowledge, of research, of information, also regarding forest management and in general about environmental and territorial management. But the problem is to arrive not only at the practitioners, and it's very difficult, it's just very difficult, but also the public opinion. And we have to do before and better than the influencer. And so I would like to finish that another kind of influencer is possible.
Thank you, Toni. I think that you mentioned really relevant points, and it's linked to the idea of more institutional innovation. But you are incorporating these points that is only always taking into consideration the rural population and their needs. And probably in policy, we have found solutions to have a different weight of each vote coming from rural areas and from urban areas. But so for policy, we have explored solutions, but to make up a voice for a sector, we probably need solutions. So sociological, political, and then you added another two key issues to me. It's information, you mentioned it, and communication. For instance, I want to mention the debate that we've had at the European level on the monitoring, the new forest monitoring framework. And it's only about resources and threats, fires, climate change. What about information on people, needs, and in perception? What about industry? For instance, last week I checked the system for the United States, and with the forest inventory for the United States, they had two key elements also. One, survey on small forest owners, the voice of the owners, and the third on industry. We haven't seen anything like that in Europe. Why? But there's something missing there. Okay, so I think that you incorporated these 2 points. Information, I think it's fundamental, and how to organize so many demands and so many ideas about forestry, because everybody has their own idea, and we need to bring together all that. And then communication, how to work in communication, I think that in the last 10 years, communication has really become an issue in the forest sector, but we still probably need much more. So I think that we have covered some elements. To me, there is a surprise that we didn't mention digitalization, and it's really changing the innovation in other sectors. And all of us are hearing about artificial intelligence. Are we not missing that in the forest sector? Would you have an opinion on that? Do you think that this is really coming to change, that there are elements and we are looking enough at that? What do you think? Any of you would like to
I think that this is coming more and more, and it's like also now in the review of the latest project is also becoming also all patents. It's becoming really prominent. I think we definitely forestry is going also in that direction. So I don't see I think actually this is one of the key points where innovations are happening in forestry sector now, and where really you can see fast advancement and things happening. So that's my thing. But from the other point, the digitalization as digitalization in rural areas is needed. So really that these rural areas are connected well, IT, all other infrastructure, that really these people stays there. From that point of view, it would be needed more, but digitalization in sense of the kind of industry and this is happening a lot. So that's my point. But yeah.
Do you have any other vision?
So I can agree on that. So what we see is that the industry is really doing a lot to implement digitalization and to use artificial intelligence to improve their processes. And of course, I can also imagine that it could help in the forest to get data, to compare data, to get some experience, to derive methodologies, and to get results out of the forest. And that leads to the information you would probably provide to the society, that they get more familiar with what happens, why are we getting fires, what are the causes for avalanches, whatever. And I think data will help, and of course artificial intelligence will help to interpret it.
Thank you. But to me, there's Toni.
I am not so skilled about the artificial intelligence, but about digitalization, for sure, I think what Sandra already said. And I was thinking about the SMURF project, because in the small small forest owners, the critical mass is important, and the digitalization is a help to collect data in an economic way, and so for sure is very useful. And regarding artificial intelligence, I trust maybe that can solve some technical problem, but regarding the social and economic problem, I trust in the human intelligence, I hope.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would like to end with a final point and capitalizing on the ideas of Francesca. To me, we have a lot of new projects, but I think that we are missing more transference. And we have seen a project that has been built on 4 different regions, but there are almost 280 regions in Europe. And the question was posed this morning: how can the rest of the regions, most of the regions, benefit from those? So particularly, I would tell the Commission, work on transference, because in the end, if we do not get the result, get to the last village of Europe, we are abandoning part of our territory. So perhaps on that, I think that the idea of FORKIS, the forest, the advisory systems would have to complement also with that. But I would like to hear you about these issues.
Well, it's somehow connected, but I also wanted to say we need continuation. So this is something that, we have projects, we have nice results, something, maybe some village implement, and that's it. And then new project, somehow we don't have really this continuation and connections, transfer of knowledge to others who are not. So this is something that I think at some point people lose interest, because they are left, after one project, they are left alone, nothing happens anymore, nobody contacts them in some regions. So these kind of things is important to somehow, and these intermediary organizations can help in this, when you build some capacity, not to lose it, but really to sustain it over time. That's important. And for the small forest owners, I think, and that's in many of our research, bureaucracy is very difficult, like forever leader project, whatever you have, like small people, kind of owners cannot really implement it alone. So this is really a challenge for them to raise money, to be innovative. And then for I don't know, one investment of 10,000 euros, they need to do so much work. So it's really a challenge for the people to be innovative. And that's I think also a big problem. So these are the things that we could still somehow try to support, and
So
we need more help.
today we have seen the results from projects, but also we have presented networks. And I think that for the future, we need to go beyond the approach of a project, because a project lasts 2, 3, 4 years. But then if people stop working on that, we're missing a lot of capacity that has been built. So I would tell the Commission also to how to work and to build on the connections between projects and networks. And we have seen, for instance, the efforts of bioregions and INNOVAForONE in connecting groups, in connecting projects. I think that is really also needed for the future. And there are some elements, but we only have 2 more minutes. I think that we have mentioned in less than half an hour many different points, and I would like you to end with a take-home message, an idea that you would like to highlight that all of us can remember. What will be your final recommendation?
Okay, I'm the first one, and as I have said, okay, I'm taking over a little bit the position of the wood processing, and yes, I would say, and I think that goes aligned with that what we have already said, that we need the collaborative work of different stakeholders, but focusing on the industry side, I would say close the loop.
Close the loop, yes, you insisted. Thank you.
Well, I also would point just like, I think more collaboration, more connections, and more transfer, and that's, I think, the most important. So build on what we have already.
Remember the rural area. And then for collaboration, so we ask the whenever and wherever peace.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for your contributions. This is what we can mention, and that's all from our side.
Yeah, you are in advance, actually. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so now the very last round table. It is absolutely politic. This is moderated by Pablo Sabín, the CEO of CC4. Well, we need some last key messages for improvements, because I have Leire before.
Oh, okay.
You can stay, but we have Leire before. This last round table is composed only by Spanish people, okay? Because we are talking about politics, and we are in Spain, we are in Castile and León, and so we are full responsible about what we are saying, okay? But firstly, we would like to listen another colleague, Leire Salaberria, from the Union of Foresters of Southern Europe. She's connected for a family concern. She couldn't travel, and she's not being with us. But Leire, thank you very much for being here. Leire will share the main conclusions of a policy forum organized just 1 month ago in the Basque Country region. And then I let the floor to the last roundtable. Thank you. Leire, please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much to everybody. And first of all, apologies for not being there. I should be there in person, but as he said, my daughter is in hospital, and I couldn't go to Valladolid. But thank God everything is okay. So I've been able to connect and at least give you the conclusions. Thanks very much, first of all, to the organizers for inviting us. We have been asked to just present the conclusions of this international forest event that we celebrated in San Sebastian on the 14th of March, organized by USSE and the Basque government through the ASI Fundazioa. And well, after what I have listened in the previous roundtable, I think I'm going to repeat a lot of things, because we are all in tune. Like the same ideas, the same key messages came out in our event. And well, as you will see, I don't know if this works in my PowerPoint. I don't know if you can. Sorry, I think I put the video first. Well, can you see my PowerPoint now? Sorry for that. Okay, so this was the event we organized. What forest model do we want in Europe? And why did we celebrate this forest event? It's just to context you a little bit the reason that it's behind the organization of this kind of event in San Sebastian. We know that the European Green Deal came out at the end of 2019, where a new growth strategy aims to transform the EU into a just and prosperous society with a modern, resource-efficient and competitive economy, where there will be net greenhouse gas emissions by 2050 and where economic growth is decoupled from the use of fossil resources. That's the main idea. Then this green transition can not only be environmentally sustainable, but must also be economically and socially sustainable. A smart and sensible green transition must harness the bioeconomy to improve the environment, to improve the economy, and to make Europe more secure and self-sufficient. And in the current socio-economic context of climate crisis, the post-COVID era, and the war in Ukraine that we unfortunately have, among others, we need a safer, greener, and richer Europe. So taking into account all that, and that there's no doubt that forests are playing a central role in this transition, we know that the forests are not the problem, but they are a great opportunity and a solution to the environmental problems and challenges we face as a result of climate change. We have seen that the European Commission is increasingly interested in forests. In fact, as you all know, in recent years, we are experiencing an avalanche, a lot of European legislative initiatives affecting our forests directly or indirectly, and forestry sector activity in general. The problem is that there's no clear overview and no coherence or consistency between the different proposals. And at the end, somehow all these initiatives are limiting the forest management and the use of forests in one way or another. So in the Basque Country, what we thought that we were sure that the different ways of applying silviculture and management in rural areas respond not only to the specific characteristics of the production sites, but also to the species to be used and to our needs as a society. Therefore, what is really desirable is to be able to have as wide a range of them as possible, so to diversify the form of management in order to be able to diversify not only the ecosystems, but the services the forests provide us of. So an ancestral way of developing this possibility is the generation of a mosaic landscape, alternating different plots in which we apply or we develop different forms of management. And to show all this that we are doing in Southern Europe, in the Basque Country, and in other different regions that have the same challenges, the same concerns in user regions and in Southern Europe, we had the initiative to organize this event, International Forestry Event, bringing together leading forestry experts from all over Europe, national and European institutions, as well as organizations representing all the social, economic, and environmental spheres concerned. So what we did is, first of all, at the start of the event, we put a video that I want to show you. It's a short video where we explained what was the reality of the forestry in the Basque Country, and which is very similar to other regions, as you will see, and which are the main challenges, the main concerns in Southern Europe that we face and which we wanted to show to the European Commission.
El Pacto Verde Europeo reconoce el papel central y multifuncional de los bosques, así como la contribución de las personas silvicultoras y de toda la cadena de valor forestal madera, con el objetivo de lograr en 2050 una economía más sostenible, verde y climáticamente neutra. Un modelo que debe hacer compatible el aumento de la restauración, resiliencia y protección de los ecosistemas con el desarrollo de las zonas rurales y el fomento de la bioeconomía forestal circular. En Europa conviven además realidades forestales muy diversas. La del conjunto de la eurorregión Euskadi-Navarra y Nueva Aquitania, así como las de Portugal y Galicia, y del resto de todo el macizo cantábrico, que deben de ser tenidas en cuenta a la hora de implementar nuevas legislaciones.
USSE 80ko hamarkadaren amaieran sortu zen, Europa hegoaldeko baso jabe pribatuen interesak defendatzeko, eta nabarmentzeko, ez bakarrik Europa mailan, baizik eta eskualde desberdinetan baso errealitate desberdinak ditugula. Eta horrekin, esan nahi duguna da, legeak egiteko momentuan, gure instituzuek kontutan eduki behar dutela, oso errealitate, baso errealitate oso desberdinak ditugula, eta kontutan eduki behar diala legeak aprobatzeko momentu. Cuando hablamos de los bosques del sur de Europa, hablamos de bosques que pertenecen en su gran mayoría a propietarios forestales privados, de propiedades forestales que están muy fragmentadas, de munifundismo, con una orografía complicada, hablamos de suelos pobres y hablamos de una actividad forestal que cada vez resulta menos rentable, lo que está provocando cada vez un mayor abandono. La no gestión entendemos que no es una opción. Tenemos que gestionar sí o sí nuestros bosques si queremos unos bosques resilientes y adaptados al cambio climático.
Euskadi es un claro ejemplo de resiliencia territorial, diversidad, complejidad y equilibrio. La superficie forestal arbolada alcanza el 55% de la superficie total de Euskadi, 396.191 hectáreas. Los porcentajes varían entre el 47% de Álava, el 60% de Vizcaya y el 62% de Guipúzcoa. El País Vasco cuenta con más de 450.000 unidades de gestión que se corresponden con situaciones forestales individuales y de características diferentes para cada una de ellas. La media de estas unidades de gestión es ligeramente superior a la hectárea. Contamos con multitud de combinaciones generadas por la diversidad de especies, de edades, de usos del suelo, formas de gestión y silvícolas, por lo que nos encontramos ante un ecosistema forestal diverso y variado. Esta característica propia del ecosistema forestal vasco convierte a nuestro territorio en un ejemplo de compatibilidad entre la capacidad de producir distintos tipos de materiales biológicos y el mantenimiento de unos estándares de protección y resiliencia muy elevados a escala de la comunidad. Conceptos como diversidad, multifuncionalidad, resiliencia, conectividad forestal, tipos de silvicultura, tienen que ser aplicados teniendo en cuenta que bajo la palabra de bosque existen realidades diversas y complementarias que van desde los bosques primigenios hasta los cultivos forestales.
La realidad a nivel geográfico es que es una región pequeña, compleja y variada. Es pequeña porque si miramos un mapa de Europa, pues Euskadi es una muy pequeña parte. Compleja, pues porque cualquiera lo puede ver, cambiando de valle, cambiando de orientación, cambiando casi de pista forestal, cambia la vegetación, cambia el tipo de propiedad, cambia el suelo, en algunos casos hasta cambian las condiciones climáticas. Eso condiciona mucho la gestión forestal. Históricamente sí que en el siglo XX, sí, en la segunda mitad, sí que ha habido la tentación de decir monocultivo en la zona cantábrica. ¿Por qué? Porque llegamos a 160.000 hectáreas de pino radiata. Pero la situación actual no tiene nada que ver. Radiata está cerca de la mitad. Hay otras muchas especies y otros tipos de bosques que han tomado su lugar y ahora mismo no hay más que acercarse al monte, sobre todo Vizcaya y Guipúzcoa, la zona norte de Álava, y la variedad es lo dominante. Si queremos conservar unos bosques naturales correctamente y alargar su vida y evitar o disminuir las perturbaciones, hay que actuar, hay que gestionar.
Euskadi cuenta con su propia hoja de ruta para implementar el Pacto Verde Europeo. La estrategia Basque Green Deal recoge los objetivos de reducción de emisiones, generación de energía renovable y fomento de la economía circular. Y el sector forestal madera vasco es un claro aliado en esa estrategia de país. Un sector organizado, con toda su cadena de valor agrupada y alineada, que transforma la madera local en industrias del entorno, capaz de digitalizarse y generar nuevos productos con el apoyo de la administración y de la red de centros tecnológicos.
Para nosotros es muy importante el poder trabajar de una manera integradora y de forma transversal a toda la cadena de valor, ya que a diferencia de otras regiones del sur de Europa, en el País Vasco, el aprovechamiento de la madera local es muy importante. Más del 70% de la madera que emplea la industria proviene de Euskadi. Otro 24-25% es madera que viene de comunidades limítrofes y tan solo un 1,5% es madera de importación. Además de la digitalización del sector, el desarrollo de la estrategia de bioeconomía va a ser fundamental. Ya llevamos unos años trabajando en implementar nuevas tecnologías, trabajando en ese I+D para la obtención de nuevos productos que nos posicionen en nuevos mercados, de alguna forma sustituyendo productos mucho más contaminantes derivados del petróleo. Lo que no se concibe es una estrategia de bioeconomía sin la utilización de la materia prima local. Y aquí es donde el sector bueno, pues vive con incertidumbre y preocupación el futuro, y aquí es donde entendemos que es necesario un enfoque más sistémico e integrador a la hora de implementar las políticas y desarrollos normativos que inciden en la gestión forestal.
Para ello, la cooperación y el diálogo constructivo son imprescindibles entre la Comisión, los Estados miembros, los gobiernos regionales y entes locales, para articular políticas que garanticen la protección de los bosques y permitan el desarrollo de la bioeconomía forestal circular.
Okay, so yeah, it was a little long, but it was just to show you that that's the reality in the Basque Country, but in other regions of USSE as well, and we wanted to show that to the European Commission. So then the event continued with 3 introductory presentations that would serve to feed all the rest of the roundtables during the event. And first of all, we had Nelson Grimmer from EUFORE, where he made a presentation contextualizing the role of forests in an international level, international legislation, more focused on international conventions and UN framework. And then we had the representative of DG Agri European Commission, Marcus Leire, who talked to us about European legislative framework and legislative initiatives that directly or indirectly affect forests. And after, finally, we had Helga Putzel from the European Forest Institute, who talked to us about how forest governance is translated into practice, from the institutions that make the legislations to the agents or actors that must implement the legislations in the grounds or into policies. So after all these introductory presentations, we had a roundtable where the 3 previous speakers participated, together with a representative of the Bavarian State Forest Enterprise, Franz Thoma. And in this roundtable, which was about what opportunities and challenges exist in Europe for our forest and what forestry model we want in Europe, we can highlight a few messages that came out of that roundtable. And that are partly some of the ones that you mentioned before as well. There's a need to maintain a good dialogue and coordination between the different actors and institutions. And in this point, the European Commission representative insisted a lot that we must continue to go to the European Commission to explain our reality with well-worked issues, with data and scientific evidence, showing good practices and bad results as well, because from the bad experiences we learn a lot as well. And he insisted that we need to be clear, simple, and very concise in our messages, and we need to do the same, obviously, with the national and regional governments, also with the MIPs. A second big idea, well, there was a lot of key messages, but I'll tell you later that we have all the event in our YouTube channel, so you can watch it if you will. So the second main idea in this roundtable was the need that there is a gap between the political ambition of the legislative proposals that are made and the possibility of their implementation on the ground. The diversity of forests we have in Europe must be taken into account, and what we say is that one size does not fit all. You can't apply the same measure to so different realities, forest realities or diverse realities. And then the last main key message there in that roundtable was to lead the forest and manage is not an option. And even less so in this context of climate change. We have to act. Foresters and forest owners are part of the solution and not part of the problem. And we need active forest management. We have to fight for people who want to still be in the forest and manage forests. We should try to not lose attractiveness. Álvaro Picardo said that we are lacking employment. We are missing skilled young people, workers from a leadership level. So, you know, one question that was arose in the event was, why should they be motivated to do this if the future is kind of blurry and they do not know what to expect? So we need to work on that as well in the future. Then we went into a second roundtable that you can see we had a representative from the government of Galicia, a representative from Portugal, from the Forest Owners Associations, scientifics from FIME, the Magda Karat. Then we had a representative from the North Sweden European Office and the area FORE network from Sweden. And finally, we had an expert in planning of the territory and forest fires from Valencia. And in this second roundtable, which was about how to align the different policies affecting European forests with research and innovation and their implementation on the ground in the face of the climate crisis, we got other key messages that you can see there. They said that there's a gap between research and its translation to the field. The main challenge here is to take all the good science and information that exists and see how we can turn it into policy or action. Research must provide simple, clear, and accurate information so that policymakers have clear premises on which to base their decisions to develop the different policy and financial frameworks or initiatives. There, it was said that forestry decision-making systems must be well-structured and informed, better than what they are nowadays. It was emphasized also that there is a need for a higher and better public-private alignment in the forest sector in relation to the financing, to management, and to collaboration. There is also a need for more dialogue and alliances between the different agents and actors, foresters, economists, biologists, scientists, public and private sector, etc. And at this regard, the need to deepen human relations and create a climate of trust was also emphasized in order to take quicker and better decisions with the aim of protecting the forests. So it was very, very said, like they insisted in this human relations need to be deepened and we need to build trust and we need to work hard on that. And of course, they mentioned as well a better balance is needed between the three pillars of the sustainability. We can see nowadays that a lot of initiatives that are coming from Brussels are prioritizing the environmental pillar and leaving aside or not giving the proper attention to the social and economical aspects in the forestry sector. And of course, here again, it was mentioned that we need an active forest management. And I liked a comment that the expert in forest fires said, that he said, everything that we do not manage will be managed by the pest and diseases or the forest fires. So if we don't manage them, they will be the ones that are going to manage our forests, and that's not good at all. And finally, in the third roundtable, we had the representative of the government of Navarra, we have the director of the old wood value chain of the Basque country. We had our president of USSE from France, who is president of the Association of Forest Owners in Aquitaine as well. We had a Professor Billsley, expert in all social perception and social aspects relating to forests. And then we had Damia from the International Organization of Students, Young Students in Forestry. So it was a really good panel as well, and there was a really great, interesting discussion. And it was about the social perception of European forests and the need to combine different management models to achieve resilient forests that provide goods and services to society. And here in general, the main idea that came out at the start of the roundtable was that the forest sector has a very bad image in society. Society doesn't understand the forest sector, and forest sector hasn't had hasn't communicated well to society what we do, we didn't know how to do it, or we didn't do it properly. So they highlighted the need for awareness raising and communication. The forestry sector has not been able to make a good communication and has lacked narrative. Today, the bioeconomy has given us part of that narrative, and it is also the right time because of the whole issue of the commitment to the decarbonization of the economy. So we have much more positive to say now than negative, but we need to work on this communication. And the main problem that was mentioned as well is that we have had that the product we sell it very well, the wooden product. Society buys it really well, but as an alternative to other products based in polluting products. But so far, we have been unable to link the final product to the forest management or to the beginning or origin of the product, which is the tree and cutting the tree. And there's a gap there. There's a lack of connection there that we haven't been able to show to or to make understand to the society. Also, it was discussed that the difficulty of turning this situation around and communicating our messages was very difficult. We need to educate from early ages. We need to break the false myths and stereotypes about the forestry sector. We need experts in communication, making use of the social media and good examples when communicating. And it was also mentioned that maybe we should need communicators that don't come from the forestry sector, but that can help us to reach the society as cooks, etc., people that believe in forestry, but that can help us not being from the forestry sector. And finally, with the communication, it was mentioned that need to work in networks and create alliances with as many people and agents as possible. And finally, about the ecosystem goods and services, it was mentioned that there is no doubt that forestry and forests provide a wide range of ecosystem services, timbers, biodiversity, recreational and leisure services, landscape, etc. But the problem is that some of these ecosystem services have values. They can be valued monetarily, but many others cannot be valued. We don't know how to put monetary value to them. And if no value is attached to them, market distortions occur, which is a serious problem when it comes to valuing the work of foresters and forest owners. So the problem needs to be addressed and further work needs to be done. And finally, as take-home messages, we could say that we need to bring together policymakers and agents or actors that implement and execute their policies, to establish an open dialogue on the issues that concern us. Sorry, because I can see all the different actors that make up the forestry sector. We all belong together and we are connected, from the EU with its administration to the decision makers at different levels to the practitioners on the ground in the forests. Of course, we have great diversity of forests in Europe, different forest realities with very different specificities, so we cannot legislate in the same way for all European forests. The reality and the specificity of each territory, region, or country must be taken into account, and we don't see that many times in the different initiatives that are coming from Brussels. And finally, we must continue to work with an open, positive, and constructive dialogue in defense of our forests. The forestry sector has a great opportunity, and we must seize it. And that then were the conclusions of our event. Sorry, it wasn't working. This is a photo of some of the people that we were there. We had 120 people. And here you can see the link to our YouTube channel where you can watch all the event, because everything is recorded, all the roundtables, all the presentations, the video, everything. So if someone is interested in that, you can watch it for sure. And thanks very much for the attention.
Thank you very much, Leire. Thank you for your time.
Thanks very much, Fred. Thanks very much for your help and support. Thanks very much.
Thanks again. And this is giving definitely the floor to our last roundtable moderated by Pablo Sabín. Our keynote speakers are Javier Ezquerra, Deputy Director in Forestry of the region Castile León, Arantza Pérez Oleaga, the Forest Director of ASPAPEL, and Jacobo Aboal, the Director of Xera. Please, Pablo, the floor is yours. This is the mic for them.
Hello. Nick, I think many of the most important ideas that we want to talk in this roundtable has been said now, and in this presentation of Leire. So Leire, thank you very much, because you have made a very, very good introduction to this roundtable. I think I see your faces, the level of energy is a little bit low now, so I'm going to ask you to stand up with me a little bit. Yes, we are going to take some power. Maybe we can do 10 squats, right? We can count together. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And now, with all this power, we can start the the roundtable. This is what we call an active pause, and it's very important every 2 hours to make an active pause. So now we are in the room again. We have a very good panel, and we have the vision of the Forest Service with the duty of regulation. We have an innovation agency. Xera, it's an innovation agency for the sector in Galicia, and we have the view and the opinion of the industry. So we are going to pass through different subjects, taking the different visions of what we are thinking in the forest policy in Europe. And the first thing to start is related what was said in the presentation of Leire about this huge number of regulation coming last year. The European Green Deal, EUDR, the biodiversity strategy, now the restoration law. So a lot of regulation, and somehow I think the forest governance, the forest government of the regions are struggling to incorporate and to integrate all these regulations. What is your point, Javier?
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you to CC4 for inviting me to the roundtable. It's very easy to stay here, mostly because Leire has done all the jobs. It's very difficult to say something more than what she has exposed. We fully agree, of course. And I think it's a pleasure to be in a roundtable related to policy where no one of us are politicians. It's a pleasure too. So we can be completely unpleasant and in a political way. Of course, we are struggling because what you have told about. I think the main problem is that there is really a policy related to forestry in Europe, but there are several very different policies with opposite objectives. But the problem is that this is not clear. This is all underground. There is not a forestry policy that we could speak about, that we could debate, because officially there is not a forest policy. It's a problem which which comes from the beginning of the European Union. The policy forestry is not in the treatments, in the original treatments. But the real fact is that forest policy is kidnapped, we could say, by some of these other policies related to forests. And mainly is kidnapped by the objectives related to conservation, to biodiversity conservation, in a poor way, I guess, I think in a poor ecological way, because it is ruled more than for ecological reasons, or it's not a scientific approach, it's more an ideological approach. It's really pity. We are speaking about a sector which 7% of total economic output in the economic union is related directly or indirectly to forest and forest activity. We're speaking of one of each in every 16 jobs in Europe is related more or less directly or indirectly to forest, forestry, and forest industry. So we are speaking about something very important in the European context from an economic and socioeconomic point of view, but it is almost, it is important too. It's also important for the climate challenge, the bioeconomy challenge, the demographic challenge is absolutely crucial for the demographic challenge, and for the energy and the independence in energy challenge too, for the biodiversity loss too, and surprisingly, for something of such an importance, there is not a clear policy. There is not a policy. But, and the policy makers which are constructing all these kind of rules you have told about only have one perspective from one of these ways. And the perspective is very stretched, it's very narrow, and is related to the consideration of forests as something we might look at, something we might not manage, something we might drive to a non-intervention scheme. Of course, this is very simplifying but in the deep, it is real. Several decades ago, the decisions related to forestry in Europe were balanced between the DG environment and the DG agriculture, and now it is not. Now the focus point, the point which is real, which is making all these different laws, is only the DG environment. And there are politics related to forest where there are no foresters involved, which is another reason of the challenge we are looking at. So I think it would be obliged, it would be very necessary for the development of this quite important sector, a strategic sector for Europe, a deep change in who is doing this policy, for what are we doing this policy?
Thank you very much. Not only governments are struggling with new regulation, I think industry is also with a big concern of new regulations in terms of what it implies for the supply chain, supply of raw material, but also with the implementation of new regulation like EUDR, for example, no, with this new control. What is the point of the industry on that?
Okay, first of all, thank you, and congratulations to CC4 team that always celebrate this kind of events perfectly. It's true that we are in a tsunami of different regulation and industry. We are trying and we are working a lot, trying to see how to do it. we need, first of all, time to implementation. The policy, so the politics are policy, legislation, but also implementation. And now we need time to stop, to think, and to see how we can do it. And the companies have a lot of invest, a lot of innovation, and they try to do it and do the way. But we need, like industries, that the first step also do it. And in that is the complexity, and in that case, we need that the authorities and the small owners and pymes and micro pymes get a very big steps to transformation with technologies, with new tools, because if not, it's very, very difficult that then this good came from the industries complying all of these things. So this is the very big challenge that each step need get all of the steps together and like a value change.
Listening to Javier, there's obviously, and listening what Leire have said, there's obviously a lack of coherence between the objectives and the regulation, because we have this, I said, this huge regulation on the environmental side, but also we have also regulation and objectives in transforming the economy, in decarbonizing the economy, and moving from this linear and fossil-based economy to a bioeconomy in Europe. So this cannot be, these objectives are not at all aligned.
There's a gap between them. We want the economy, we want circularity, we want all of these kind of products, but how can I do it if then in the forest, in the land, we can obtain these resources? It's very, very difficult.
Yes. Even that, I think Xera, for example, it's has a big ambition in moving towards this bioeconomy, and is doing big steps on supporting this transformation in Galicia.
And there are a lot of challenges underneath. First of all, thank you for the invitation of the organization, Pablo and Álvaro as well. It's an honor to be here and be able to discuss with you or just present us some ideas. I know I'm the last man standing in order to, and I'm completely sure that you prefer to be in the tapas tour than listening to me. So I'm gonna try to be as brief as possible. No. Well, everything has been said before me, so I'm gonna try to focus on some projects that we undertook in my region. Galicia is located in the northwest of Spain. We are just every year it was harvesting more or less between 10 and 11 million of cubic meters. It's more or less half of the total production in Spain. But the reality is quite complex. I mean, 98% of the forest area belong to private forest landowners. We are talking about more than 11 millions of different references, cadastral references. And they are belonging to 1.4 families, Galician families. And the average mean can be maybe 1 or 2 hectares per every forest landowner. Split it up in 5 and 6 plots, different plots, less than half a hectare. So in this, I would say, complex situation and very complex situation, we had to try to undertake some projects in order to get as much value as possible. I could speak about, for instance, a regional forest inventory that we undertook. Right now, we know exactly, the forest and species distribution in our region. And one of the, the conclusions and the results that we already obtained is that the native hardwood species like oaks, birches, or chestnut trees have multiplied by 3 in the last 25 years. But on the other hand, softwood species like maritime pine or Scott pine or radiata pine are decreasing. And for sure, there are a lot of reasons underneath, but climate change, I think, could be one of the major reasons to explain this trend. And I don't think this is an isolated trend. We can see barbitol in the center of Europe, and we can see in the country Basque a fungi called Lecanostic tachycola. Branda marron is brown stripe in a literal translation. Or in Portugal, a nematode called Percephalentus xylophagus. So to me, it supposes a lot of challenges that we need to be tackled. First of all, is to think about what will happen in the future. And I was in the next future, maybe mixed forest area covered by species like hardwood species like oaks, birches, chestnuts. It seems to be more resilient, and we have to accept this situation. And forest managers, forest engineer, we are not used to manage such a kind of stance. And it supposes, to me, more complex situations in terms of forest management. So it's necessary innovation projects in order to give us solutions and give us, as I said before, some support in order to make decisions like forest engineer in front of a mixed area or harbor species. We are not used to manage. And we are trying right now to do that. And of course, there are a lot of challenges regarding to ecosystem services, and especially in such a kind of mixed forest stance. There are on the table some ideas like assistance migration. If you know this trend is unstoppable, maybe you can speed up and establish a policy based on to foster a specific substitution. And what about industry? The industry ready to transform this new material? At least in my region, for instance, sawmill industry are, I would say, specialized in softwood species. And this is not so easy like to extract the pine and introduce oak and think everything will work. That's not the case. Sometimes it supposes to change the entire productive line in a sawmill. And again, innovation is needed. And okay, I think we have another opportunities on the table. And as you can imagine, all the decarbonization policies, all substitution of traditional material with wood elements, that's an opportunity for us. And we need, again, innovation projects, and especially if you have to take into account that maybe softwood species are decreasing and hardwood species like oaks, beech, birch are increasing. And you can use such a kind of material for construction uses, yes, but we have to move forward in that direction. And what about credit cards system? I would say even credit markets of nature elements. The credit cards markets are already on the table. But what about biodiversity credit markets? And I'm not talking about credit carbon plus ecosystem services like water, landscape. I'm talking about a biodiversity credit market. And if you're talking about a market of credits, you need to have a strong and credible system underneath, and you need to calculate the additionality in a credible way. And again, it's necessary to have innovation project in order to support such a kind of new opportunities. I heard just 2 weeks before a nitrogen credit market. It's the first time that I've heard about it in the UK regarding to construction uses. So to me, there are a lot of opportunities on the table as well due to climate change. And in all this context, for sure, there's a price to pay, there's a ticket to pay, and it's not enough to claim that we are doing the things in a sustainable way, in economic, environmental, and social way. It's time to demonstrate it. So it's needed to incorporate traceability into our discourse. We need to demonstrate in a credible way that the wood comes from legal sources, no deforestation, no degradation, biodiversity, ecosystem services, and that's part of our challenges in the next years. And again, innovation projects will be needed. As a conclusion, all the governments at different level, EU, national and regional, we have to show a clear and strong support for R&D and innovation projects, and it's supposed to increase financial budget and economical resource at this regard.
Thank you, Jacobo. We have time to make a round, so I'm going to continue a little bit with you, and then we jump again with Javier. I think one of the main points for the success in Galicia in the last year is, or I can say about public-private cooperation in this innovation, a clear focus on transfer, integrating the industry in all the process of innovation, and a clear ambition and objectives of the regional government. And I think, I don't know if I missed some other, but if you can tell us something how to do that in order to other regions, other organizations
and just let me put an example. I think it's the only way to know. As I said before, we have a regional forest inventory adapted to our reality in terms of forestry. We need to know how much quantity of wood we have in our forest. For this reason, as you said before, we have an agreement with the principal forestry universities in Galicia in order to cooperate public and private investment. But, to me, the point is we are trying to find out what quantity of this volume it's available for industrial uses. I don't care, firewood or round wood uses. And of course, we apply it a FAUS methodology based on these areas with legal restriction, but we amplify it through a survey with the principal organization related to the stakeholders and organization related to forest value chain in order to know what factors related to slopes, distance roads, or even the size of the plot will be pretty important in order to know if this resource can go to can have an industrial use. And even we are studying the socioeconomical profile of the people that right now are harvesting, and we find out that the average age, it's about 70 years old. So maybe the problem is that you can have enough resource, even more of them, it's available for industrial purposes, but nobody gonna be there to sell such a kind of product. So to me, it's very important to cooperate, to create an ecosystem network with socioeconomic information, with forestry information, and even with environmental information to make right decisions.
Thank you, Jacobo. Jumping again with this regulation, at some points, this situation of supposed conflict between the environmental and productive functions of the forest reminds me to the 80s and 90s in Castile and León, where there was a real conflict in the forest management with those two opposite visions, which nowadays and during the last decades, somehow we overcome this problem. And now it's coming from the European Union when it's not in the real life. It's not here. It's coming from outside. I think during these 30 years, Castile and León has become one of the most reference regions in generating a forest model management, integrating production and conservation. And a great success is the creating of the Natura 2000 network and integrate them in the productive functions. So that something like has been very successful, and Castile and León, I think it's a reference region on that. I'm very proud of talking of Castile in this way. Something like coming from above. Now it's like making a mess on that. How can we go again and show that there's a way to manage the forest in a region, integrating everything, providing supply to the industry, and going taking these objectives of bioeconomy and at the same time integrating conservation?
Yes, indeed. We used to say that our speech would be like producing by conservation or the opposite, conserved by producing. I really don't want. I don't like to speak about conservation versus production, because I really think that they are two sides of the same token. We are speaking about managing ecosystems, living ecosystems, and ecosystems that live themselves in the long term. So we have to consider the long term and the complexity they have, and of course we can demonstrate it. It's surprising that this is happening now with probably the only really sustainable natural resource in Europe, the only renewable, and we can prove it. We can show 2,000 to 200 years of management, 200 years of management, and we can see the results. And the result, these results mark the path we might follow. And it's real that what you have said, we have overcome some conflicts during the decades, and now the conflict is coming from outside. It's coming from a different way of considering what the world is, between the people living in the urban areas and the people living in the rural areas. I believe this is part of another struggle. And we can see this is a general problem. We can see the protests of the people in the agriculture these months in all over Europe. So this is part of a movement that goes upwards from what is forestry, but of course forestry is deeply affected. The way of solving this, I don't know, but I guess that is in the conclusions that Leire have told. We need to make a deep effort in joining us and to have a very intense and a very wide speech about the improvement of our communication. We have to afford a strategic communication of the message we have, because we have a message and we can prove it, and it's a good message. We must believe in that, and we must try to reach of course the political level, to show them the problem, the solutions, and to make them understand that all in what is related to forests is completely linked. We cannot separate all those things we are speaking here about. We need objective, and we have to claim for them, and we have to pray too for the ecological basis and the scientist basis of our work that we have been applied during years. And part of this is as problems of forests that might be considered in the long term. The positive is that I guess this will be solved. I don't know if it will be solved in the short time, but probably in the mid time. And I believe someone in Europe is taking this into account now. And we can see different signs, brief and little signs of someone in the high level of the policies is considering this as a problem, and perhaps thinking of the need of implement some solutions.
Okay, thank you. I don't know, Arantza, if you have any last words about...
Last words, because I think we have a lot of information today, but I think maybe one word is necessary too, and I think it's also very, very necessary with communication, education, because if not, all of the communication, the people can understand, because it's very, very difficult. So we have to begin in the first step, and we have to change the models of education, and maybe in that way, in the future, the people can understand that they want a carton box in their houses, and for that you need cut a tree, and we cut a tree, and we do it very, very well. So I think if we want a sustainable Europe, we need a sustainable forest management, and we need a competitive industry that transform these products. And I think
that's
it's
perfect
enough for today.
I think that's perfect for finish. Thank you very much for being here. We keep in mind other, I think, 2 more words. Innovation, it's key, important in order to get this transition, and coherence and I would say coordination in between policies is important to create a model forest for Europe. No? And with that, we can finish. Thank you very much.